There are moments when the air itself feels charged, as if something unseen is preparing to move. Tonight is one of those moments. A quiet doorway opens, and those who are still enough to feel it will step into a different rhythm of life. I am Shi Hengyi, a disciple of the Shaolin tradition. For centuries, the masters of our temple have spoken of nights when energy shifts across heaven and earth, when the patient heart receives sudden insight and inner strength reveals itself without struggle. This is such a night. In this message, you will learn how the teachings of Shaolin, the balance of stillness and movement, the art of emptying the mind, and the discipline of attention can transform your path almost overnight. You will hear how the ancients trained their consciousness not only to endure but to awaken, how miracles were never accidents, but the natural results of alignment between thought, breath, and purpose. Stay until the end, because we will go deeper than surface motivation. We will uncover rare principles, the unseen pulse behind mindfulness, the way breath can reset destiny, and why surrender, not struggle, opens the gate to sudden change. This is not just another lesson, it is a transmission from temple silence to your heart, the kind of teaching that does not speak to your mind, but to the part of you that remembers strength, clarity, and peace. So, take a breath. Let the noise of the day fall away. You are entering sacred ground where discipline meets grace, and where miracles begin quietly within you. Welcome to Shaolin Soulfire. Subscribe, stay centered, and walk this path of mastery with us. There is a rhythm in life that most never notice, the silent pulse between ending and beginning. When a day closes and the world grows still, a different kind of energy begins its work. In the Shaolin way, we call this the hidden practice, transformation that takes root in the unseen. Change often appears slow because the eyes search for proof. But the true shifts happen beneath the surface, where silence, breath, and intention weave together. Just as a seed must rest in the dark soil before it breaks open, the human spirit too must enter its own darkness, a space without noise or answers, before light can return. In my years of training, I have seen disciples grow not through force, but through quiet perseverance. One monk once asked me, "Master, how can I awaken faster?" I told him, "You cannot rush the dawn, but you can prepare your heart to receive its light." He understood. From that day, he no longer fought his progress. He nurtured it in stillness. Months later, his movements changed. Effortless, fluid, alive. It was as if something inside him had bloomed overnight. This is the principle of overnight transformation. The work you do in silence is never wasted. When you breathe with awareness, when you release control, when you keep faith in the unseen, the universe listens. The energy you align before sleep continues to move, even as you dream. A miracle, then, is not a sudden act of fortune. It is the moment reality reorganizes itself around your inner order. You do not summon it, you allow it. The night is not empty, it is alive with potential. Every breath you take in awareness becomes a seed, and by dawn, the garden within begins to stir. In the Shaolin tradition, every movement begins long before the body acts. It starts in stillness, in the silent conversation between body, breath, and mind. The untrained eye sees only the strikes, the leaps, the power, but beneath every form lies meditation in motion, a living dialogue with the unseen. Shaolin practice was never about fighting the outer world. It was about mastering the inner one. The body is treated as a sacred vessel, a temple built from discipline and patience. Each posture, each stance is an offering of respect to life itself. When the muscles obey the rhythm of breath and the breath follows the quiet order of the mind, something extraordinary happens. Chaos dissolves into harmony. In this harmony, strength becomes soft and stillness becomes alive. The breath is the altar where the spirit bows. It cleanses the dust of thought and renews awareness. The mind, trained through repetition and attention, becomes a clear path, not to power over others, but to mastery of the self. Ancient masters taught that imbalance among body, breath, and mind leads to suffering. One rushes, another resists, the third wanders. But when all three move as one current, even ordinary moments turn sacred. A single sip of water, a step across the floor, the sound of wind, all become meditations. Through this alignment, transformation accelerates. The practitioner no longer pushes against life. They flow with it. The outer world mirrors their inner order. This is why true Shaolin mastery cannot be measured by physical strength alone. It is seen in the grace of a calm face, the gentleness of action, the presence that fills even silence. When body, breath, and mind harmonize, the spirit no longer seeks miracles, it becomes one. There is a saying among the elders, where your attention goes, your life follows. Most people scatter their attention across the surface of the world, chasing noise, comparison, and the endless movement of others. In this chase, they lose the center that gives life its quiet power. The Shaolin path begins where that noise ends, in the art of turning inward. Attention is not merely focus, it is the direction of your spirit. When it is bound to the outer world, you react. When it returns to the inner source, you create. The first step toward mastery is learning to reclaim this wandering energy. A monk once said, "The mind is like a candle in the wind. Without stillness, its flame cannot grow." Through training, that flame becomes steady, undisturbed by praise or doubt. The practice begins simply: a few conscious breaths at dawn, a pause before speaking, a moment of awareness before movement. These are small acts, but they awaken the sleeping mind. Over time, they gather power, not the loud power of control, but the quiet power of presence. Shaolin teachings remind us that attention is nourishment. Whatever you feed with, it grows. Feed worry, and it multiplies. Feed stillness, and peace expands. When attention rests inwardly, the senses clear, and intuition begins to speak. What seemed impossible starts to unfold without effort. This is the true overnight miracle. Inward attention does not isolate you from the world. It reconnects you to it from a higher balance. The master's eyes see the same mountains, the same sky, the same people, but through still waters, not waves. When your attention becomes calm and complete, the world no longer pulls you apart. Instead, it moves with you, silently in perfect rhythm. In the Shaolin halls, discipline is not a word of burden, it is a word of freedom. To the novice, it feels like restriction rising before dawn, repeating movements in silence, obeying rules that seem unbending. But with time, the student learns that these limits are not cages, they are bridges. Each act of discipline carries the spirit from confusion to clarity, from chaos to calm command. The masters say, "Do what must be done, whether you feel like it or not." It is not cruelty, it is compassion in disguise. Feelings shift like wind across water, unreliable, fleeting. Discipline, however, anchors the vessel. It teaches the practitioner to act not from mood, but from principle. One who follows only feeling drifts endlessly. One who follows discipline walks the unseen path that leads beyond the self. There is an old story of a young monk who wished to attain enlightenment quickly. He asked his teacher for secret methods. The master simply replied, "Sweep the floor." Days passed, then weeks, and still the same instruction. One morning, as he swept the courtyard, the monk felt the broom moving on its own. The sound of bristles against stone merged with his breath, his heartbeat, his awareness. In that moment, the line between task and self disappeared. Discipline had turned into liberation. True discipline is not about control, it is about surrendering to rhythm. It dissolves resistance and makes the ordinary sacred. Every repetition, every promise kept, reshapes the nervous system, sharpens the mind, and softens the heart. Through small, consistent acts, the energy within aligns. And when alignment deepens, transformation no longer needs effort. It happens on its own, silently, like dawn following the discipline of night. In the stillness of the temple, there is a practice older than words, the art of emptying. It is said that the mind, when full, cannot receive. Only the bowl that is emptied can be filled again. In the Shaolin and Chan traditions, this emptiness is not a void to fear, but a space of renewal, a sacred pause between one breath and the next. Many come to the path seeking to gain strength, wisdom, peace. Yet the deeper truth is that mastery is not about adding more. It is about releasing what no longer serves. The ancient masters taught, let go of the self you think you are, and the one you truly are will appear. When we cling to identity, to outcomes, to control, the river of life cannot flow freely. But when we loosen the grip, even slightly, the current begins to carry us toward harmony. There is an old teaching of a student who brought tea to his master, speaking endlessly of his ideas about enlightenment. The master quietly poured the tea until the cup overflowed. "Why do you keep pouring?" cried the student. The master replied, "How can I show you truth if your cup is already full?" The lesson was simple. Emptiness makes space for understanding. Miracles often enter through this quiet door. When resistance fades, the body relaxes, the mind clears, and the spirit remembers its vastness. Overnight, new patterns begin to form, not through effort but through surrender. In emptiness, there is no loss, only return. It is the return to what has always been, peace beneath thought, clarity beneath confusion. When we allow ourselves to become empty, life itself begins to breathe through us, shaping us gently into what we were meant to be. When the sun descends and silence covers the world, most believe the day is over. Yet for those who walk the inner path, night is when true work begins. The darkness is not an absence of light. It is a hidden laboratory, a sacred alchemy in motion. In these unseen hours, while the body rests and the mind releases its grip, the spirit continues to weave, to heal, to transform. The Shaolin masters taught that sleep is not mere rest, but a return, a pilgrimage back to the source of being. Just as roots grow strongest in the dark soil, unseen beneath the earth, our deepest growth unfolds where the eye cannot follow. The breath slows, the noise fades, and what remains is the quiet pulse of life reorganizing itself. There is a story of a monk who practiced diligently by day, yet felt no progress. One night, surrendering his frustration, he whispered, "I release this striving." As he slept, a dream came, a candle burning within his chest, small but unwavering. When he woke, he understood, transformation happens, not when we push, but when we allow. Night is the alchemist that softens the rigid mind and returns balance to the heart. The forces that shape us, intuition, spirit, the inner teacher, speak most clearly when the world grows still. To entrust your night is to trust the unseen rhythm of the universe, to know that the work continues without your interference. So when darkness falls, do not fear it. Rest is not retreat, it is renewal. Each night is a silent vow between you and life itself, that while you surrender to sleep, the unseen within you continues to rise, shaping you into a vessel ready for dawn. Within every seeker lies a garden of potential, but also the weeds that choke its growth. The Buddha spoke of 5 hindrances that cloud the mind and dull the spirit: desire, ill will, sloth and torpor, restlessness and remorse and doubt. Shaolin masters, blending Chan wisdom with daily discipline, did not seek to destroy these hindrances. They sought to transform them, to turn poison into medicine. Desire, when left unguarded, scatters energy toward fleeting pleasures. But when refined, it becomes devotion, a focused love for practice, for truth itself. Ill will, born from hurt and judgment, burns the heart from within. Yet through compassion, it becomes warmth, a fire that protects rather than harms. Sloth and torpor weigh the body and dull the will. The masters taught that vigilance is the cure, not frantic action, but the gentle alertness of one fully alive. Restlessness and remorse, 2 sides of the same storm, dissolve through presence. When the mind stops running from what is, peace quietly returns. And doubt, the most subtle of all, transforms through clarity. It is not wrong to question, but one must do so with stillness, not fear. A Shaolin elder once said, "The mind like the moon shines perfectly when the clouds pass. The hindrances are those clouds, temporary and shifting. When night comes and the world grows silent, these inner shadows rise to the surface. But instead of fighting them, the wise let the night do its work. In stillness, each hindrance begins to lose its hold, dissolving into its higher form. By dawn, the mind that once wrestled with doubt and distraction stands clear, like a mirror reflecting truth. This is the quiet alchemy of the path, turning inner struggle into awakening one breath at a time. Every action, every thought, every quiet breath touches more than just oneself. In the wisdom of Shaolin and the teachings of Chan, there is the understanding of interbeing, that nothing exists in isolation. The self is not a solitary island. It is a thread woven into a vast, intricate web, where each thread responds to the movement of the others. When the heart shifts inward, when clarity and stillness take root, the effect is never contained. One act of patience, one moment of presence, one release of attachment sends ripples through this unseen network. Relationships begin to ease, circumstances subtly reconfigure, and the world outside starts to mirror the inner transformation. A gentle adjustment within becomes the quiet architect of outer harmony. There is an old story of a monk who spent years cultivating calm and attention. One morning, a fellow traveler remarked on the sudden peace that had settled over the village. The monk laughed softly, for he understood his inner work, invisible and silent, had touched everyone nearby, like the roots of a tree nourishing the soil that holds many lives. Interbeing teaches that miracles are not isolated fireworks, but continuous subtle movements, a symphony of change that begins within and flows outward. Night, with its stillness, allows these ripples to gather strength. While the world sleeps, the invisible threads align, reorganizing relationships, opportunities, and even fate itself. To embrace this truth is to move with life rather than against it. Each small act of discipline, awareness, and compassion contributes to the network. Each release of fear or attachment sets another thread free. In this understanding, the miracle is not a single event, but a living, breathing web, ever responding to the quiet mastery that begins within. In the training halls of the ancients, a lesson was repeated quietly but insistently: the path matters more than the destination. Shaolin teachers observed that the mind, when fixed on a rigid outcome, tightens like a bowstring, resisting the flow of life. True mastery is not measured by arrival, but by the fidelity to the direction chosen, by the steady, disciplined steps taken even when the end is unseen. A student once came, anxious for a particular rank, a visible mark of progress. The master handed him a broom and told him to sweep the courtyard. Day after day, the task repeated. At first, the student questioned its purpose, feeling the weight of monotony. Then gradually, his attention shifted from rushing toward a goal to moving with intention. He began to notice the rhythm in the motion, the clarity in the silence. One morning, the courtyard seemed transformed, not because of the broom, but because his presence had reshaped the space. The path itself had become the teacher. Miracles unfold in this way, quietly, almost imperceptibly. By committing to a direction rather than clinging to a fixed result, the mind opens. Opportunities that were hidden suddenly appear. Doors, once invisible, swing open. Overnight, change may occur, unseen by the conscious eye, and yet the consequences emerge naturally in the morning. This principle is a call to patience and trust. The work, done with sincerity, guided by direction, aligns with the greater rhythm of life. Each step in the right direction strengthens the unseen foundation, allowing transformation to accelerate. When the heart moves steadily along the path, miracles need no invitation. They arise as the natural unfolding of disciplined intent, guiding the practitioner forward, one quiet, purposeful step at a time. As night falls and the world quiets, a simple practice can transform the hours into a sacred laboratory of change. It asks nothing more than presence, intention, and trust. Begin with a single deep breath. Let it fill the chest, expand the belly, and settle the mind. Feel the weight of the day dissolve with each exhale, leaving a calm space within, open and receptive. Once stillness has settled, bring a phrase to the mind, silently, gently. Let what must come, come. Speak it not as a demand, but as an invitation. This phrase becomes a bridge between effort and surrender, a key that unlocks the door to possibilities that cannot be forced. It is not about wishing, hoping, or controlling, but about aligning with the quiet intelligence of life itself. Finally, surrender control. Release the need to know exactly how transformation will appear. Allow the night to hold your intentions without interference. Just as the earth does not force the seed to bloom, but nourishes it silently, the mind that lets go allows its own hidden work to unfold. Resistance, doubt, and urgency dissipate, replaced by a steady, patient awareness. Even a few moments of this ritual, performed with sincerity, set the field for change. The unseen energies of the night respond to clarity and intention. Dreams, intuition, and insight gather strength while the conscious mind rests. By morning, the subtle shifts begun in quiet alignment may reveal themselves in ways both gentle and profound. This practice is not complicated. It asks only for attention and devotion, yet in its simplicity lies power. Repeated with consistency, it becomes a conduit for the overnight miracle, a reminder that transformation does not always require struggle. Sometimes it only asks for presence, release, and trust in the unseen rhythms of life. There is a quiet miracle in patience, a kind of wisdom the masters speak of often but few understand. Every transformation, no matter how sudden it appears, begins long before the eye can see it. Like seeds buried in soil, change requires time, nourishment, and the unseen work of roots stretching through darkness. Overnight shifts are no exception. They emerge only after persistent preparation, careful tending of the mind and spirit. The true miracle is not the moment of bloom, but the faith maintained while the ground lies still. It is the willingness to continue the practice, to keep the breath steady, to hold attention inward, even when progress seems invisible. A novice once despaired after months of repetition, seeing no sign of growth. The master told him, "Do you think the seed complains while it waits in the earth? Trust the process, and it will surprise you in its own time." That seed, nurtured silently, eventually sprouted, carrying more strength than the impatient mind could imagine. Persistence transforms the ordinary into the sacred. Each act of discipline, each moment of surrender, each breath of presence becomes part of the hidden alchemy at work beneath consciousness. The night is a silent laboratory, and the unseen hours are a crucible where inner patterns shift, unseen by the waking mind. Morning may bring the first visible sign, a clarity in thought, a lightness in heart, a circumstance unfolding in unexpected harmony. Yet this is only the surface evidence of work that has already begun beneath. Understanding this teaches humility, patience, and trust. The seeds sown in quiet devotion are more powerful than any hurried effort, and the miracles they yield are enduring, not fleeting. In patience, the mind becomes fertile, and even the smallest act of intention can awaken profound transformation. As the night deepens, remember that every small act of presence, breath, and intention becomes a seed for transformation. The practices of stillness, inner attention, and disciplined surrender are not rituals for tomorrow, they are ways to live fully today. When the mind quiets and resistance softens, the unseen energies around us begin to move, quietly reshaping life from within. Carry this awareness into each day. Pause before action, breathe before reaction, and release what no longer serves. In these moments, you cultivate the same harmony that allows miracles to arise, not as fleeting events, but as subtle, enduring shifts in perception, understanding, and presence. Trust the process. Even when nothing appears to change, the work beneath consciousness is unfolding, preparing the path for insight, clarity, and alignment. Each night, each moment of sincere practice builds the foundation for inner transformation that continues silently yet powerfully. May your days be guided by this calm strength. Let patience, discipline, and mindful surrender be your companions. And as you step forward, know that the miracles you seek are not distant, they already move within you. If this message resonates, join us in the journey. Like this video, subscribe to Shaolin Soulfire, and continue walking the path of mastery, presence, and quiet transformation. Peace and clarity be with you.